Elly here from Thankful Flow Yoga. Thank you so much for joining me for this all levels creative flow. So today we are going to be moving through some fun and playful transitions and postures throughout, but as always making this practice your own. So making this practice into what you need it to be today. So leaving anything that's not for you today, taking the option that is going to serve you. So we will come to a comfortable seated position to get started. So I'm cross-legged, but you could have your legs out in front or in another position. And bring the hands down to rest in the lap. You could just place one hand underneath the other, the palms facing upwards. And we'll close down the eyes or start to take your gaze out in front. And begin to notice how you're feeling. Starting to ground into your space, into your practice. You might be able to feel the belly expanding with your breath and drawing back in. Notice the small movements in the body as you breathe. We're going to take a couple of big sighs, big releasing breaths to come into the practice. So these breaths are really good for releasing stress and tension. So on your inhale, we'll breathe in for 3, and on the exhale, sigh it all out, release the breath. So breathing in for 1, 2, 3, breathing out through the mouth. Breathing in for 1, 2, 3, breathing out. Letting it all go. Last one, breathing in for 1, 2, 3, breathing out through the mouth. Let the shoulders soften, the arms relax. Start to open the eyes back up now, coming back into the physical body. And we're going to take the hands and interlace the fingers. Take a big inhale and stretch up, pressing the palms of the hands up towards the ceiling. As you bring the hands down, keep them interlaced, make the palms face in towards you. Exhale, press the hands away, draw up the head round the spine. Inhale, lift the head, release the hands, float them out behind, interlace the hands behind the back, open across the chest. And bring the arms back to center. So we'll go through that 2 more times. So interlace the hands, inhale, press the palms of the hands up. Bring the hands down as you exhale, palms face in, draw up the head, rounding. Lift the head, find the interlace behind the back, open across the chest. Inhale, shining the heart forwards. And releasing. 1 more time. Inhale, press the palms of the hands up. Exhale, palms face in. Reach the hands out in front, rounding. And then finding the interlace behind the back, opening across the chest. Release the hands, now bring the hands to the hips. And then on your inhale, roll the shoulders back, open across your chest. And as you exhale, drop the head down, round the spine, draw the belly button in. So start to move between the two. Inhale, opening. Exhale, rounding, this sense of closing inwards. And notice where your hands are placed on the hips. If you can maybe feel the hips moving slightly as you take these spinal movements. So you might be able to feel a sense of the pelvis tipping forwards as you open across the chest, and then tipping backwards as you round the spine. But notice whatever you notice. If it doesn't fit with what I'm describing, that's okay. It doesn't mean that it's wrong or anything like that. There is no right or wrong. Really observe what's alive in your body and trusting how it feels. Now I want you to start to move into some more circular movements. So moving from the waist, hands are still on the hips. And again, interesting to have this point of contact with the hands on the hips instead as we take these movements, just to notice what you can feel moving as you move into the side body, as you move the spine. Noticing any sensations, going back in the other direction as well. And again, just making these movements as small or as big as you want them to be. Notice if your sitting bones are tempted to lift away from the mat here, and see if you can keep them grounded. And then coming back to center. So now we start to get into our creative flow a little bit. We're going to reach this left leg out to the side and the right leg bent in. Take your left hand to the inside of the left leg. Inhale, reach the right fingertips up, lift up and out from the waist. Exhale, take a stretch. Float the right hand up, and then you're going to place the right hand down on the ground behind you. Left arm sweeps up and around. Lift the hips away from the mat. Heart and hips lifting. Exhale, bring the hips back down, and then bringing both hands down to the ground. Step the left leg back and see if you can pivot so you're in tabletop with the left leg at the back lengthened. Lift your left leg away from the ground. Don't worry if you lost me a bit there, just meeting here. Right fingertips reach out in front. So now we're reaching forwards with the right fingertips, pressing back with the left foot. Option to bring the hand to the foot and take a little half bow pose. Release the hand from the foot. Bring your right hand back down to the mat. Bring the leg back down. And then see if you can slide this right leg under and come back to where you were. Or thereabouts. It doesn't need to be exactly where you were. You might be completely off your mat, and that's okay. Take it onto the other side now. So the left leg's bent in, the right leg's reaching out. Right hand comes to the inside of the right leg. Inhale, sweep the left fingertips up, lift up and out from the waist. Exhale, take a stretch over to the right. Left fingertips could be finding the right toes, or you could be much higher up here and you could be looking like this in your stretch. So again, feel into what's right in your body. Float the left arm back and bring it down to the ground. Inhale, reach the right fingertips up, lift the hips and the heart. Exhale, drop your hips back down. Bring both hands down to the mat on your left side. And you're going to use this right heel or this right foot to help you to pivot so that you're in your tabletop position with the right leg lengthened. Lift the right leg away from the mat. Reach forwards with the left fingertips. Option to stay here. You can always bring the hand down to take more support, or coming into a half bow position. Hand finds the foot. Foot's pressing into the hand. Release with control. Bring the left hand down to the mat, and then see if you can shift your way back to your wide leg position, or you could be working more like this. Again, feel into where your body wants to go with the movement. So take it back to the other side. Place that left hand down to the inside of the left leg, sweep the right arm up, take a stretch. Then bring the right hand down to the ground, lift the hips, lift the heart. Flow the hips back down. Bring your hands down to the mat, pivot into all fours, lifting that back leg. Reach the right fingertips out in front. Option to take your half bow. Release from the half bow. Hand comes back down to the mat. Can you slide the knee in, come back to that position. Switch it over onto the other side. Right hand's on the inside of the leg. Inhale, left arm reaches up. Exhale, take a stretch. Float back to center, left hand's grounding. Lift the hips and the heart up to the ceiling. Release the hips back down to the ground. Hands come down on the left side, pivoting onto all fours with the right leg lifted. Either working here or lifting the left fingertips, reaching them forwards. Option to bring the hand to the foot, finding a half bow pose. Releasing with control. Left hand comes back down. Right foot comes back down. Then you might need to slide that knee in. See if you can come back to your position that you started in. Well done. From here, we're going to come into tabletop position. So just your standard tabletop position, you might be pleased to know. Tuck the toes under and exhale, send your hips to the sky for downward facing dog. And don't be afraid to explore the pose, to explore any of the poses in this class. So always being on that journey of being curious, learning about the body, exploring, seeing what's there. On your inhale, see how it feels to shift the shoulders forwards, coming through into your plank position. Then on the exhale, bending the legs, floating the hips back up to a downward facing dog. So start to take a couple of spinal rolls, coming forwards, ribcage drawing in, and then exhale, hips lifting up. So making these movements as fluid or slow as you want them to be. Slower does not necessarily mean easier. In fact, quite often the strength to take things slow can be more intense. So just notice whatever's there for you. Last spinal roll, meeting back in a downward dog. Child's pose is always there for you if you want to take it. Step the right foot through between the hands, drop the back knee. Inhale, reach the fingertips up, lift the heart, low lunge. Shift the hips back, find your Ardha Hanumanasana, your half split. Flexing the right foot, lengthening into the right leg, but the right leg can still be bent, doesn't have to be straight. And then start to see how it feels to shift some weight backwards and forwards here. So moving between these two poses. And working with a range of movement that feels right for you. So moving into places in the body that we may not normally move into, perhaps or feeling some different sensations. But as always, knowing and connecting to your limit. And then pausing in your low lunge, so weights into the front leg, tuck the back toes under and lift the knee. Keeping the back leg, some buoyancy in that back leg. We're going to take those same movements with that back knee lifted. So inhale, shifting forwards, maybe exhale, coming back. So similar movements but with the back leg lifted. So a lot of strength. You could always have your hands on blocks here. For any of these kind of lunge movements, hands on blocks is always an option. Last one, well done. From here we're going to pivot, so right toes are pointing out and we're coming into our right side Skandasana. So you could be low down here, your Skandasana could be higher up and you could be here. So opening into that right hip space. Sending the gaze up towards the ceiling. Start to pivot back around, bringing your hands down to the mat. And then inhale, reach your right fingertips up and pivot onto the knife edges of the feet to find your evolved Skandasana. Right fingertips reaching towards the side wall. Inhale, sweep that right hand all the way back up and over, so you're back in your lunge. And then we're going to lift this back left leg away from the mat and find a version of almost a standing split. Again, hands could still be on blocks. And then from here, see if you can keep just the right hand on the block or the mat. And we're going to reach the left fingertips up. Open that left hip up towards the ceiling. Find Ardha Chandrasana, your half moon pose. Well done. Take the left hand back down to the mat. Take a big step back to plank. Flow through your vinyasa. Inhaling into upward facing dog or cobra. And exhaling back to your downward facing dog. Well done. This time the left leg steps through between the hands. Drop the back knee. Inhale, reach the fingertips up, heart's lifting. Exhale, hands float down to blocks or to the mat, shift the weight back, find your half split position. Flexing the left foot, opening into the back of the left leg. See how it feels to start to move between these two movements. Again, hands could be on blocks, just adjusting the hands wherever you need to. So as you shift forward, sinking into that lunge, and as you shift back, lengthening into the left leg. Stay with your breath, keep your awareness looking inwards. So imagine always being that ever alert guardian of your inner space. Keeping watch over everything that's going on. And we'll meet back with the weight in that front foot. See how it feels to tuck the toes under and lift the back knee. And then take those same movements but keeping that back leg lifted. So as you shift back, you're going to bend a bit more into the right leg, lengthen the left leg, then shift forwards and bend the left leg. If this feels too much, you're going to drop the knee back down and work in those movements that we were just doing, taking some support from the ground. Remembering there's no choice that's better than another. It's just what feels good in your body today. From here, meeting back with the weight in the front leg, start to pivot. So left toes are pointing out towards this corner of the mat roughly, and finding a Skandasana. So it could be your Skandasana is higher up on this left side, maybe you're coming lower down in your Skandasana. See what feels good for you. Send the gaze up towards the ceiling. Start to pivot back around, so bring the hands down to the mat, back in your lunge. Inhale, reach the left fingertips up to the ceiling, and then start to pivot onto the knife edges of the feet, finding a revolved Skandasana. So letting the right hip sink down, left arms come all the way up and around. Sweep the left arm all the way back down. So hands are on the ground or blocks, and lift your right back leg, so finding a standing split position. Walking the hands out as much as you need to. And then seeing how it feels to keep the left hand on the ground or a block. Reach the right fingertips up and let this right hip open up towards the ceiling, finding Ardha Chandrasana, half moon pose. Breathing here. Bring both hands back down to the mat. Take a big step back to plank. Flow through your vinyasa. Inhaling into an upward facing dog or a cobra. And then exhale back to a downward facing dog. From your downward facing dog, drop the knees down. And we're going to open the knees out to the side. Exhale, sit the hips down towards the heels. Take a lovely wide leg child's pose. Soften the gaze or close the eyes and allow the head to connect to the mat. And allowing a sense of the body resting here, making this a restorative place. Taking slow, soft breaths. And seeing how it feels to connect just the fingertips to your mat. And on your inhale, imagine that you're lifting from the shoulder blades. The shoulder blades are lifting you up on your inhale, and then exhale, melting you back down. So inhale, shoulder blades lifting, maybe the head lifts a little bit. Exhale, shoulder blades sink back down, head drops. So undulating, rippling the spine, noticing the connection between all these different parts of the body moving, that rippling effect. Moving with your breath. And one more of these. Melting back down into stillness in your child's pose. Resting heavy on the ground. And then we'll start to slowly open the eyes if you had them closed, and walk the hands back in. Gently coming back to a comfortable seated position on your mat. Bring the hands back to just resting in the lap, one hand underneath the other. And as we come to close off the practice, seeing if you can think about one thing that you'd like to take with you from this practice today. Notice how your energy feels and notice how you're feeling. And then we'll bring the hands down to connect with the ground, to honour being in this present moment, right here, right now. Opening the eyes back up when you're ready, coming back into the physical body. Thank you so much for joining me for that creative flow. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it brought a sense of fun and creativity into your practice. Do comment feedback to me on how you got on. You can subscribe to this channel, it's completely free, and I do really appreciate your support. And yes, I can't wait to be flowing with you again, hopefully very soon.